Section 4 of ISO 9001 sets out the general requirements for any quality management system. The first clause in this sets out the overall requirement, which is that the organisation shall establish, document, implement and maintain a quality management system, and shall continually improve its effectiveness in accordance with the requirements of this international standard. Well, that kind of sums it up, really. I mean, you've got to establish the quality management system and maintain it. You've got to put your resources in to do it. And the rest of the clause just goes on to explain a certain amount about what that means. That's clause 4.1. Now, 4.2 sets out what you have to document in this system. It's not enough just for somebody to say, yep, right, we put in ISO 9001. All right. Well, yeah, and what evidence is there that there is, in fact, a quality management system? So this is the next section, which is what has to be documented in some fashion. Now, at the time ISO 9001 was written in 1987, the acceptable evidence that something existed was noted as documented. I imagine that in this day of electronic documents and electronic recordings, it doesn't have to be printed on something on a piece of paper. It could in fact be an electronic record, provided there was some permanence to it. Electronic records have the habit of being able to be modified. No, that's not good enough. There has to be some control over its modification. So the documentation requirements, these are things that actually must be documented in some way. Now, the first of them is that there must be a documented statement of quality policy and quality objectives. The organisation has to state what its policy about quality is. Now, this could mean, as frequently you see them, very aspirational statements that we will get the best quality we can, we will strive for improved quality, or something of that nature. It doesn't have to be. It's perfectly valid to say we will put out something that's fit for usage once, whatever the quality policy is. Philip Crosby, in one of his talks, said an example of a policy is for we pay our bills on time. Okay, that's a policy statement. We pay our bills on time. Now, what do you need in order to make that happen? You need to have money available at the time to fund to actually pay all those bills. You need to have the accounting system in place. You need to be able to track where the bills are, how much they are, who they're paid to, and you need to have all the financial services in place to make sure that happens. So a very simple statement of policy can have quite wide implications. So the first thing you must have a documented quality policy and documented quality objectives. You must have a quality manual. Now, that quality manual sets out the quality procedures in all whatever detail is necessary for them, and you must maintain. It's the expression of documented records, but records of the actions of the quality management system. And these are things like evidence that the product has achieved its required level of quality, or evidence that it hasn't, or this kind of thing. You have to maintain records of the operation of the quality management system, and this is part of the documentation requirements. Now, the quality manual itself, this is section 4.2.2. It has to set out the scope of the quality management system, including details of and justification for any exclusions. Now, we'll come to, exclusions in a little while. But the scope of the quality management system, the quality management system doesn't necessarily include everything that the organisation does. Normally, a quality management system covers only one aspect of what an organisation does, and usually it's the primary aspect. For example, if the organisation exists to develop and sell software, the quality management system will normally cover developing and selling software. It normally won't cover the HR operations or the financial management of the company. It's normally the production system of it all. Whatever it is, your quality system manual must record what the scope of the quality management system is and what it's not. It must record the quality procedures that are going to be used, and it must include a description of the interaction between the different processes. Now, this might seem like simple, but the whole objective of that requirement is to avoid a case where you have processes that basically just don't talk to each other, they become disconnected. Now, this tends to happen a bit more in larger organizations where different parts of production are handled by different organizations. And the kind of disconnect you get is that one section produces something that can't actually be used by another section, or doesn't produce a required output or trigger or signal or something of that nature. So the interaction between all the processes have to be documented in the quality manual. Now 4.2.3 talks about control of documents. Now this is mostly for records that matter to the quality management system. Usually these are things like evidence that the product has been tested, or evidence that it's been inspected, evidence of any defects that were found during that inspection, evidence that those defects were fixed, the exact makeup of the product. So if you're with software, how did you build it? What versions of what modules went into building it? This is a record of the product, so you've got to preserve that so that it's available should anybody want to trace it back. And certainly the ISO 9001 auditors will delight in having a look at all those records. Now, among other things, it requires the records remain legible, so you can't be scribbled on paper that will fade away or just dissolve. It has to be some sort of a permanent record. And again, the point is that there are some circumstances where tracking back over those records becomes quite important, and part of the functioning of a quality management system is to enable that to happen. So that's the general requirements of a quality management system. That is section 4 of ISO 9001.